Hi, this is Aaron from Galvin Engineering, and today we're just going to give you a quick rundown on how to connect an additional solenoid to one of our urinal flushers. So you have the TZ Flow Flush that you bought, and we'll show you what normally comes in that, and then we'll get on to how you connect an additional solenoid. Alright, in the box, obviously you get the instructions on how we recommend to set it up and so forth. So please keep those instructions, give those to your client. It gives you some fact finding and some other information about it, so make sure you don't get rid of that. One of the items inside there is a solenoid assembly. That's all pre-wired up, so pretty much you just have to open it all up and then install your solenoid. Pretty simple stuff. Once again, gives you a booklet on the solenoid from Burkett. It tells you what to do, how to maintain it and clean it. If you do get stuff stuck in it or bad water quality, what will happen is from time to time it will get stuck open. That is not a fault of the product, that's just pure water quality and stuff that goes in your solenoids. So you will have to disassemble it and clean it out. Generally, it gets stuck in the open position. Now, the electronic controller will not keep it open because this solenoid is closed generally and powered. When it's powered, it's open. So when the power turns off, it will close. If it doesn't close, there's got debris in it. So keep that booklet and keep it with the other one as well. So what you have is your stainless steel solenoid. Right here it tells you the voltage, which is 24 volts, says it's a 1/2 inch solenoid. Gives you some temperatures and gives you the pressure it can hold. Once again, important to make sure you put it in the right direction. This side's got a nipple in it, Loctite it in. You put your Y-line strainer on the incoming side of the water. We do that to make sure that thread tape doesn't get sucked into here, which is a very common problem, happens all the time. Keeps it open. Someone calls, says there's a fault. It's not. This is your plug assembly. So this plug right here plugs into your control module, which I'll show you. You have a control module. Once again, read the instructions. Very simple to set up. Basically, it comes in plastic and so forth. This is your controller. This sits in your roof, this side down on the bottom, so it sits in the roof like that. Read the instructions and placement. You've got your output to your solenoid, so your solenoid plugs in there, and you have your input for your power, which will show you the transformer in there. There's nothing on the front of this to change any settings. To get into the settings, you take off this front cover. So you squeeze the top and the bottom and take it off, it clips off. And on here you've got your settings right there. You got pre-flush, which if you have it switched like it is currently to the on positions, that means when you walk in and it hasn't been activated for the last 10 minutes, it will do a little squirt on the urinal. Just a brief flush, just to wet the urinal down. Then you have two options, economy or full flush. I always recommend to put it on full flush. This one's switched on economy, so this is something you can change. Your range, you have high, that means very sensitive, and your low. So depending on which side that switch is on. Right now it's on high. And then the last one is a walk test. What that basically does is if you don't have any water to it, you can actually place it and walk around underneath it and you'll hear it squeaking at you, knowing that it's picking up. So that's off or on. Up at the top, you have a hygiene flush. What that means is if it hasn't been activated in either 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, or 48 hours, it will automatically go off. So if you look at that little end, you can see it's sort of shaped as an arrow. Depending on where you have that pointing, it will go off if it's not been used. This is good just to keep the traps primed up, keep the smell down from the urinal. Currently this is set at 12, but you could turn it off if you wanted to. This is the microwave. So the microwave, most of the microwave sensing comes from the bottom out this way. You will still get some detection on this side. So if you have it inside of a roof that's got cables and stuff moving around, or wind or rats or anything, if something goes around it, it will go off. So sometimes, if that is the case, I recommend the cheapest and easiest fix is go to one of your local supermarkets, buy a baking tray, just a tin metal baking tray, set it over top of the sensor. So put it in position, put it over top. That hides any movement above it. From time to time, you will get that where it's getting activated because something up in the ceiling keeps on tripping it off. So just something to be aware of. Anyway, we'll put that cover back on once you've set up what you want it to do. That's placed in the ceiling. Read the instructions. We'll just go on because this is a video basically showing how to connect more than just one solenoid in the system. Normally, what you would do is you take your cable with your solenoid and you plug it straight in there. You put your power in this side. So when this sensor is activated, it will put power down to your solenoid to activate it. What I'm going to show you is how to wire two solenoids together so that you can use one controller on a urinal that's got two inputs. Because if you do not, you can't wire just one solenoid to two inputs. The reason being that is you're not going to get enough volume of water flush through. So I'll just quickly show it. So we'll put this back aside. What you can order from Galvin Engineering is another solenoid assembly. So you get your solenoid. Once again, this one, similar to this, you will get something slightly different, but you get a Y-line strainer, you get a solenoid. This side would normally not have that in it because you're going to need to use an air gap. As per Australian standards, when you connect to your urinal, your solenoid needs to connect to an air gap. And I'll use this one for example, say like this one's been screwed together. This sits on top of your flush pipe, water goes through, you have an air gap there. Just in case any water gets back pressure, it'll come out here as opposed to try to go back into the main system. It's a requirement. So you would get an additional solenoid and an additional air gap, more than what you get in the package. So they get another solenoid. So you have another solenoid. Along with that, you will get a cable assembly, which it just plugs onto the solenoid. And this end, I'll show you what we do, but this end gets removed and wired into the other plug. So I'll just quickly pop over here and then I'll show you the way to do that. Alright, so what I have done is I've just removed this little plug off the end of it. That leaves the two bare wires, is what you want. So you get those stretched out, or you just re-strip them. Either or, it doesn't really matter. They're just folded over and tucked in there. So you have your two cables like that. What you then do, you get the solenoid that came in the pack and you just remove this end right here. So what you get the other piece like that. What you need to do is you loosen this off, you push your cable out, that pops this piece out, or alternatively, if it doesn't pop out, you can just get your screwdriver in there, pop it forward. What you end up is with that cable, with the two plug-ins in there, a contact on either side. Bear in mind, sometimes if you ever have one on site and for some reason your solenoid is not activating, this is the first thing I check. I always take this plug assembly apart, just pull it apart, and make sure that these are in. Because sometimes when it gets pushed onto those tabs of the solenoid, like that, one of these tabs can hit the inside of that and push out a connection. So now that you've done that, you take your second cable and essentially you just put it through. So now you have this one and you have this cable that goes to the other solenoid. So what you're going to do is you're just going to connect these fittings in with those fittings. The polarity doesn't matter because these are actually a 24 volt solenoid, so the polarity won't affect it either way. So you just loosen off that, loosen off the other side, that comes off. What I then do is just take those two solenoid cables, make sure the cable's all stretched out, and I just wire those two together. And on the other side, same thing. You may need to strip them a little bit more, but you get the idea. Just you wire them together like that. So essentially, that's what you have. So what that's going to do is when you plug in one solenoid and it gets activated, it will activate the other solenoid. So then you just plug them back into the slots that they came out of. Make sure that all the cables are tucked in properly. You tighten it up. Just make sure they're nice and snug. This one's probably not really that snug because it's kind of hard to do with both hands and do the video, so that's nice and snug. You look at the orientation because obviously this little tab right here, it's kind of hard to see in the video because of the light, but see, you can see the tab. These are the two sides you're connecting on it, so you want to have that generally like that, because when it plugs on to the solenoid, it will plug on. Here's the large tab that goes in that slot, so that just clicks back together. Give this a bit of a snug. All this is it creates a little bit of a seal down at the bottom, and you connect it back on. So that one's connected on to your solenoid. You have the additional plug to connect onto another solenoid, which I'll put it down here because it's kind of hard to hold it both up. That connects on. See, the orientation to this one is slightly different, so you can change that orientation, but the plug right here, obviously the bigger slot's right there, so that would connect on this way. So now both these solenoids are connected together. So when this solenoid, number one solenoid, is powered by the connection that's connected to the sensor, it will activate both solenoids. Both solenoids will run at the same time, giving your urinal plenty of water. Well, that's pretty much it. Really, all you have is the transformer in there that just plugs in this side. Pretty simple. Like I said, follow the instructions. You shouldn't go wrong. If you have any questions, always happy for you to give us a call at Galvin Engineering on 9249-5900. No worries. Thank you very much and have a good day.